Question 1. The efficiency study reveals that a particular preparatory course for the Bello Catholic University entrance exam has a statistically lower pass rate compared to other similar programs, despite a high student enrollment. The course director is under pressure from the university administration to demonstrate improved performance metrics for the program. The director is considering several options to address this discrepancy. Which of the following approaches best upholds the ethical and regulatory standards expected of an academic institution? Option A. Adjust the passing threshold for the preparatory course to artificially increase the pass rate, thereby aligning the program's performance with administrative expectations. Option B. Provide supplementary, non-assessed practice materials to students in the preparatory course, without altering the core curriculum or assessment methods, hoping for an indirect improvement in results. Option C. Implement a revised curriculum and teaching methodology for the preparatory course, based on a thorough analysis of the study's findings and student feedback, to improve genuine student learning and subsequent performance. Option D. Recommend the immediate discontinuation of the preparatory course without further investigation, citing its underperformance as a reason to avoid further scrutiny. Correct answer is C. Implement a revised curriculum and teaching methodology for the preparatory course, based on a thorough analysis of the study's findings and student feedback, to improve genuine student learning and subsequent performance. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between achieving institutional goals, efficiency, and upholding ethical principles, academic integrity, fairness to students. The pressure to demonstrate improved performance can lead to ethically compromised decisions if not managed carefully. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the pursuit of measurable outcomes with the fundamental responsibility to provide a fair and accurate assessment of student learning. The correct approach involves a commitment to transparency and adherence to established academic policies. This means acknowledging the study's findings, without resorting to arbitrary adjustments to student performance. Instead, the focus should be on identifying systemic issues that may have contributed to the observed inefficiencies and developing constructive, policy-driven solutions. This aligns with the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and ensure that evaluations are based on genuine student achievement, not manipulated data. The university's regulatory framework, as implied by an entrance exam context, prioritize fair assessment and the integrity of academic processes. An incorrect approach would be to directly manipulate student grades or performance metrics to align with the study's findings. This is ethically unsound as it misrepresents student capabilities and undermines the credibility of the academic evaluation system. Such an action would violate the principle of fairness and could lead to students being admitted or denied based on inaccurate data, potentially causing significant harm. Furthermore, it would disregard the established procedures for academic assessment, which are designed to be objective and impartial. Another incorrect approach is to ignore the study's findings entirely without further investigation. While this avoids direct ethical compromise, it fails to address potential underlying issues that the study might highlight. A responsible professional should investigate the reasons behind the observed inefficiencies, even if the initial impulse is to dismiss them. This inaction can perpetuate systemic problems and prevent necessary improvements. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the findings. Thoroughly review the efficiency study and its methodology. 2. Identify the ethical implications. Assess how the findings and potential responses impact students, faculty, and the institution's reputation. 3. Consult relevant policies. Refer to the university's academic regulations, ethical guidelines, and assessment policies. 4. Seek expert advice. Discuss the situation with academic leadership, ethics committees, or relevant administrative bodies. 5. Develop a plan of action. Propose solutions that address the identified issues while upholding ethical standards and regulatory compliance. This might involve curriculum review, pedagogical training, or resource allocation, rather than direct manipulation of student data. 6. Communicate transparently. Clearly explain the situation and the chosen course of action to all stakeholders. Question 2. The efficiency study reveals a significant improvement in student retention rates following the implementation of new pedagogical strategies. However, a faculty member reports suspected plagiarism in a major assignment by a student who has been a strong performer, raising concerns about the integrity of the reported academic success. The university's academic integrity policy clearly outlines procedures for addressing plagiarism. What is the most ethically and professionally responsible course of action for the faculty member and the university administration? Option A. Acknowledge the positive findings of the efficiency study and advise the faculty member to address the plagiarism informally with the student, focusing on future academic honesty. Option B. Immediately initiate a formal investigation into the suspected plagiarism, following the university's established academic integrity policy, ensuring the student is informed and given an opportunity to respond. Option C. Immediately impose a severe penalty on the student, such as failing the course without a formal investigation, to send a strong message about academic honesty. Option D. Overlook the suspected plagiarism to avoid jeopardizing the positive results of the efficiency study, assuming the student's overall performance is strong. The correct answer is B. Immediately initiate a formal investigation into the suspected plagiarism, following the university's established academic integrity policy, ensuring the student is informed and given an opportunity to respond. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it pits the pursuit of institutional efficiency against the fundamental ethical obligation of academic integrity and the university's commitment to fair evaluation. The pressure to demonstrate improved outcomes, as highlighted by the efficiency study, can create a temptation to overlook or downplay instances of academic misconduct. Navigating this requires a careful balance between institutional goals and the core values of the academic community. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation of the alleged plagiarism, adhering strictly to the established academic integrity policies of Andres Bello Catholic University. This means gathering evidence, providing the student with an opportunity to respond, and making a decision based on the findings and the university's regulations regarding academic misconduct. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible because it upholds the principles of fairness, due process, and the integrity of academic work. It aligns with the university's stated commitment to academic honesty and ensures that all students are held to the same standards, regardless of external pressures or perceived institutional benefits. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the allegations without a proper investigation due to the perceived positive impact on the efficiency study's findings. This would be a failure of professional duty, as it prioritizes a superficial outcome over the substantive issue of academic dishonesty. It undermines the credibility of the university's academic standards and creates an environment where misconduct might go unaddressed, fostering a culture of academic dishonesty. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately impose severe penalties without due process, such as expulsion, before a thorough investigation is completed and the student has had a chance to present their defense. This violates principles of fairness and due process, which are fundamental to any ethical disciplinary procedure. It also risks making an erroneous judgment that could have severe and irreversible consequences for the student. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a commitment to transparency, fairness, and adherence to established policies. Professionals should first identify the core ethical principles at play, such as academic integrity, fairness, and due process. They should then consult the relevant university regulations and guidelines to understand the prescribed procedures for handling academic misconduct. A structured investigation, allowing for the presentation of evidence and counterarguments, is crucial. Finally, decisions should be made based on the evidence and in accordance with established policies, prioritizing the long-term integrity of the academic institution over short-term perceived gains. Question 3. Upon reviewing the exam instructions, a fellow student approaches you privately and asks for specific answers to upcoming questions, stating they are struggling and will fail if they don't receive help. They emphasize that you are the only one they trust to provide this assistance. Option A. Provide the student with the answers to the questions they are struggling with, assuring them that you will not tell anyone. Option B. Offer to share your own completed exam answers with the student after the exam is over. Option C. Politely decline to provide any answers or direct assistance, explaining that academic integrity is paramount and that helping them would violate university regulations and be unfair to other students. Option D. Ignore the student's request and walk away, hoping they will not pursue the matter further. Correct answer is C. Politely decline to provide any answers or direct assistance, explaining that academic integrity is paramount and that helping them would violate university regulations and be unfair to other students. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it forces a student to confront a conflict between academic integrity and a desire to assist a peer, potentially leading to unfair advantage or academic misconduct. The pressure to conform or to avoid conflict can cloud judgment. Careful consideration of ethical principles and university regulations is paramount. The correct approach involves prioritizing academic honesty and the integrity of the evaluation process. This means refusing to provide the requested assistance, as doing so would constitute academic dishonesty and violate the principles of fair assessment. The Bello Catholic University's regulations on academic integrity, which are standard for most reputable institutions, prohibit any form of cheating or plagiarism. Providing answers or guidance that directly aids another student in completing an exam they are meant to do independently is a clear breach of these regulations. Upholding these standards ensures that all students are evaluated on their own merit and that the degree awarded reflects genuine learning. An incorrect approach would be to provide the answers or detailed guidance. This action directly violates the university's academic integrity policy by facilitating cheating. It undermines the fairness of the examination for all other students who have prepared independently. Ethically, it is a betrayal of trust placed in the student to act with integrity. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the request and avoid the situation entirely. While this might seem like a way to avoid direct confrontation, it implicitly condones the peer's intention to cheat and fails to uphold the university's commitment to academic integrity. It also misses an opportunity to reinforce ethical behavior. A further incorrect approach would be to report the peer to the authorities without first attempting to dissuade them from their intended action. While reporting misconduct is a valid option, a more constructive initial step, in line with fostering an ethical academic community, is to address the situation directly with the peer and explain the ethical and regulatory implications of their proposed action. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves 1. Identifying the ethical conflict. Recognize the tension between loyalty to a peer and adherence to academic integrity. 2. Consulting relevant regulations. Familiarize yourself with the university's policies on academic honesty and misconduct. 3. Direct communication. Address the peer directly, explaining the ethical and regulatory reasons why their request cannot be fulfilled. 4. Seeking guidance. If unsure, consult with a trusted faculty member, academic advisor, or the university's ethics office. 5. Upholding integrity. Make a decision that aligns with academic integrity and ethical principles, even if it is difficult. Question 4. Market research demonstrates that prospective students are highly influenced by perceived career success rates and the prestige of academic programs. A university department is preparing its recruitment materials for the upcoming admission cycle. The department head is considering emphasizing only the top 5% of alumni success stories and using highly selective language to describe program outcomes, while omitting any mention of graduates who have faced career challenges or the competitive nature of certain fields. What is the most ethically sound approach for the department to take in preparing its recruitment materials? Option A. Present a balanced overview of program outcomes, including both notable successes and realistic career trajectories, while clearly outlining admission requirements and program expectations. Option B. Create composite success stories based on common positive outcomes to illustrate the potential benefits of the program, ensuring the stories are inspiring and aspirational. Option C. Employ sophisticated academic terminology and highlight the university's historical achievements to convey a sense of exclusivity and academic rigor, without detailing specific graduate outcomes. Option D. Focus exclusively on the most impressive alumni achievements and use aspirational language to create a strong sense of opportunity, downplaying any less favorable statistics. Correct answer is A. Present a balanced overview of program outcomes, including both notable successes and realistic career trajectories, while clearly outlining admission requirements and program expectations. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's desire to attract prospective students with the ethical obligation to provide accurate and unbiased information. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create a conflict of interest, tempting individuals to present information in a misleading light. Careful judgment is required to ensure that marketing efforts do not cross the line into misrepresentation. thereby protecting the integrity of the university and the trust of its applicants. The correct approach involves prioritizing transparency and factual accuracy in all communications with prospective students. This means presenting program details, admission requirements, and career prospects honestly, without exaggeration or omission of crucial information. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty and integrity, which are fundamental to academic institutions. Specifically, it adheres to the spirit of fair marketing practices and the expectation that educational institutions will represent themselves truthfully to potential students, fostering an environment of informed decision-making. An incorrect approach that involves highlighting only the most positive aspects of the university and its programs, while downplaying or omitting any challenges or less favorable statistics, is ethically flawed. This constitutes a form of misleading advertising, as it creates an incomplete and potentially deceptive picture for prospective students. It violates the principle of full disclosure and can lead applicants to make decisions based on inaccurate premises, potentially resulting in dissatisfaction or a mismatch with their academic and career goals. Another incorrect approach, which involves fabricating or exaggerating success stories of alumni to create a more appealing image, is a direct breach of ethical conduct and potentially illegal. This is not only dishonest, but also undermines the credibility of the university's marketing efforts and its overall reputation. It misrepresents the reality of graduate outcomes and can mislead students about their own potential future successes. A third incorrect approach, which involves using overly technical jargon or complex language in marketing materials to obscure certain details or make the university appear more sophisticated than it is also problematic. While clarity is important, intentionally using confusing language to hide information or create a false impression of academic rigor is unethical. It hinders genuine understanding and can prevent prospective students from making informed choices. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to ethical principles, particularly honesty, integrity, and fairness. Professionals should always ask themselves if the information being presented is truthful, complete, and not misleading. They should consider the perspective of the prospective student and whether they would feel adequately informed if they were in the applicant's position. When in doubt, it is always better to err on the side of caution and provide more transparent and comprehensive information. Seeking guidance from university ethics committees or legal counsel can also be beneficial when navigating complex marketing scenarios. Question 5. The audit findings indicate a pattern of unauthorized expenditures and potential misallocation of funds within a specific academic department. The head of the department, a long-standing and respected faculty member, has expressed concern that reporting these findings could jeopardize their upcoming departmental accreditation review and negatively impact the university's reputation. As the auditor, what is the most ethically and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Document the findings accurately and report them through the established internal channels to the appropriate university administration and oversight committees, regardless of potential repercussions. Option B. Share the preliminary findings with a trusted colleague outside the university to gauge their opinion on how to proceed. Option C. Omit the specific details of the unauthorized expenditures from the final report to avoid jeopardizing the departmental accreditation review. Option D. Discuss the findings with the head of the department and suggest ways to reclassify the expenditures before the formal report is submitted. The correct answer is A. Document the findings accurately and report them through the established internal channels to the appropriate university administration and oversight committees, regardless of potential repercussions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between the auditor's duty to report findings accurately and the potential for negative repercussions for the institution and individuals involved. The auditor must navigate the ethical imperative of transparency and professional integrity against the pressures that might arise from disclosing sensitive information. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the reporting is both truthful and conducted in a manner that upholds professional standards. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective assessment of the audit findings, followed by a clear and factual communication of these findings to the appropriate university authorities as per established internal reporting protocols. This upholds the auditor's professional responsibility to provide an unbiased evaluation of the university's financial and operational health. Specifically, adhering to the internal audit charter and relevant university policies for reporting discrepancies ensures that the process is transparent, documented, and allows for timely corrective action. This aligns with the ethical principles of integrity and objectivity expected of auditors. An incorrect approach would be to suppress or downplay the findings to avoid conflict or negative attention. This constitutes a failure of professional integrity and objectivity, potentially violating the auditor's ethical obligations and any applicable professional auditing standards or university policies that mandate full disclosure of material findings. Another incorrect approach would be to leak the findings to external parties prematurely or without proper authorization. This breaches confidentiality, could damage the university's reputation unfairly, and bypasses established internal procedures for addressing audit issues, thereby undermining the audit process itself and potentially violating professional conduct guidelines. A third incorrect approach might be to present the findings in a biased or misleading manner, perhaps to protect certain individuals or departments. This is a direct violation of the principle of objectivity and honesty, and it prevents the university from addressing the root causes of the identified issues effectively. Professionals should approach such situations by first ensuring a complete and accurate understanding of the audit findings. They should then consult the relevant internal policies, audit charters, and any applicable professional ethical codes to guide their reporting process. Open and direct communication with the designated university officials, presenting the facts clearly and objectively, is paramount. If there is ambiguity or a need for clarification, seeking guidance from a supervisor or a designated ethics committee within the university is a prudent step. The decision-making process should prioritize transparency, accuracy, and adherence to established procedures, ensuring that the audit serves its intended purpose of improving institutional governance and operations. Question 6. Examination of the data shows a candidate exhibiting behavior that strongly suggests they are attempting to access unauthorized information during the Andres Bello Catholic University entrance exam. This behavior includes furtive glances at a hidden object and unusual hand movements beneath their desk. What is the most ethically and procedurally sound course of action for an invigilator to take in this situation? Option A. Immediately approach the candidate and verbally warn them about their suspicious behavior, advising them to cease any unauthorized actions. Option B. Discreetly observe the candidate for further evidence of misconduct while preparing to report the suspicion to the chief invigilator or designated examination authority immediately after the exam concludes. Option C. Discreetly attempt to retrieve the hidden object from the candidate's possession to confirm the suspected misconduct. Option D. Ignore the behavior, assuming it is a minor distraction and not a serious attempt at academic dishonesty, to avoid disrupting other candidates. The correct answer is B. Discreetly observe the candidate for further evidence of misconduct while preparing to report the suspicion to the chief invigilator or designated examination authority immediately after the exam concludes. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the ethical obligation to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well on a university entrance exam, especially in a competitive environment like that of the Andres Bello Catholic University, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the pursuit of knowledge and fair evaluation with the prevention of academic misconduct. Careful judgment is required to identify and address potential ethical breaches without compromising the integrity of the examination process or unfairly penalizing students. The correct approach involves recognizing the potential for academic dishonesty and taking proactive, ethical steps to prevent it. This means adhering strictly to the established rules and guidelines of the Andres Bello Catholic University entrance exam, which are designed to ensure a fair and equitable assessment for all candidates. Specifically, it requires reporting any observed or suspected instances of academic misconduct to the appropriate examination authorities immediately, without attempting to resolve the issue independently or ignoring it. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty, integrity, and fairness that underpin academic institutions. The regulatory framework for university entrance exams, as implicitly defined by the institution's own examination guidelines, mandates such reporting to maintain the validity of the assessment. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the observed behavior, assuming it is not significant or that it is the student's responsibility to be caught. This failure to act violates the ethical duty to uphold academic integrity and can lead to an unfair advantage for the student engaging in misconduct, thereby undermining the credibility of the entire examination process. Another incorrect approach would be to confront the student directly or attempt to intervene without proper authority. This could escalate the situation, potentially lead to accusations of harassment or unfair treatment, and bypass the established procedures for handling academic dishonesty, which are designed to ensure a fair and impartial investigation. Furthermore, offering assistance or guidance to the student in a way that could be construed as enabling or condoning the misconduct is also ethically unsound and violates the principle of fair play. Professionals in examination settings should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established rules and ethical guidelines. This involves a clear understanding of the examination's code of conduct, recognizing potential red flags for academic dishonesty, and knowing the proper channels for reporting such issues. When faced with a situation that raises ethical concerns, the professional should pause, assess the situation against the established framework, and then act decisively and ethically by reporting the concern to the designated authority. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are not based on personal bias or impulse, but on established principles and procedures, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the examination. Question 7. Assessment of a candidate's ethical response when observing another candidate engaging in potential academic misconduct during the Andres Bello Catholic University entrance exam. Option A. Ignore the observed behavior to avoid potential conflict or repercussions. Option B. Report the observed behavior to the exam proctor or designated university official immediately, providing specific details of the incident. Option C. Approach the other candidate and offer assistance to ensure they pass the exam, regardless of the method. Option D. Discuss the observed behavior with other candidates to gauge their opinions before deciding on a course of action. Correct answer is B. Report the observed behavior to the exam proctor or designated university official immediately, providing specific details of the incident. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair evaluation. The pressure to perform well on a crucial entrance exam, coupled with the temptation of unauthorized assistance, creates an ethical dilemma that requires careful judgment. The university's regulatory framework, as embodied in its internal regulations and ethical codes, prioritizes honesty, fairness, and the prevention of academic misconduct. The correct approach involves upholding academic integrity by reporting the observed incident. This aligns with the university's ethical obligations to ensure a fair and equitable assessment process for all candidates. By reporting, the individual acts as a responsible member of the academic community, contributing to the maintenance of standards and preventing unfair advantages. This action is ethically sound as it prioritizes honesty and fairness over personal relationships or the avoidance of discomfort. The university's internal regulations on academic integrity would mandate reporting of such observed misconduct to the appropriate disciplinary body. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the situation. This failure to act constitutes complicity in academic misconduct. Ethically, it violates the principle of fairness by allowing one candidate to potentially benefit from cheating, thereby disadvantaging honest candidates. From a regulatory standpoint, ignoring such an incident undermines the university's ability to enforce its academic integrity policies and could lead to a devaluation of its degrees. Another incorrect approach would be to confront the student directly and offer to help them cheat. This is ethically reprehensible as it actively participates in and facilitates academic dishonesty. It violates the core principles of academic integrity and exposes the individual to severe disciplinary action from the university, including potential expulsion. This approach also demonstrates a profound misunderstanding of professional responsibility within an academic setting. A further incorrect approach would be to report the incident anonymously to a general university contact without providing sufficient detail for investigation. While seemingly an attempt to report, this lacks the specificity required for effective action and may not be considered a formal report under university procedures. It fails to fully discharge the professional responsibility to ensure proper investigation and resolution of academic misconduct. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Recognizing the ethical conflict and the potential for academic misconduct. 2. Consulting the relevant university regulations and ethical codes regarding academic integrity and reporting procedures. 3. Prioritizing honesty, fairness, and the integrity of the assessment process. 4. Taking appropriate action to report the observed misconduct through the designated channels, ensuring sufficient detail for investigation. 5. Understanding the potential consequences of both action and inaction. Question 8. Which approach would be most appropriate for an Andres Bello Catholic University Admissions Committee member when reviewing an application that is missing a required document, but the applicant has provided a compelling personal explanation for the omission and expressed a strong desire to attend the university? Option A. Immediately rejecting the application due to the missing document, without further consideration of the applicant's explanation. Option B. Informing the applicant that the missing document is a strict requirement and that their application cannot be considered further, regardless of their personal circumstances. Option C. Granting admission based on the compelling personal explanation and strong desire to attend, overlooking the missing document. Option D. Requesting the missing document and any supporting evidence for the explanation, and then evaluating the application based on all submitted materials and established admission criteria. The correct answer is D. Requesting the missing document and any supporting evidence for the explanation, and then evaluating the application based on all submitted materials and established admission criteria. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's academic integrity policies with the personal circumstances of a student. The admissions committee member faces a conflict between upholding established rules and demonstrating empathy, which can be difficult to navigate without compromising either principle. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness, consistency, and adherence to ethical guidelines. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of the student's application, considering all submitted documentation and the established admission criteria. This approach prioritizes fairness and transparency by applying the same standards to all applicants. It aligns with the ethical principle of impartiality and the regulatory framework of the Andres Bello Catholic University's admissions process, which mandates objective evaluation based on merit and documented qualifications. The university's commitment to academic excellence and equitable opportunity necessitates that decisions are based on verifiable information and established policies, not on subjective personal appeals or assumptions. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking the missing documentation due to sympathy for the student's personal situation would be professionally unacceptable. This would violate the regulatory requirement for complete applications and could lead to inconsistent decision-making, undermining the integrity of the admissions process. It would also set a precedent that could be exploited by future applicants, creating an unfair advantage. Another incorrect approach, which is to immediately reject the application without further consideration of the student's explanation, fails to acknowledge the potential for extenuating circumstances and the importance of a holistic review. While adherence to rules is crucial, a complete disregard for mitigating factors can be seen as lacking professional judgment and empathy, potentially alienating promising candidates who might have valid reasons for minor discrepancies. A third incorrect approach, which is to grant special consideration solely based on the student's personal narrative without verifying the information or assessing its impact on their academic preparedness, is also professionally unsound. This would bypass the established evaluation criteria and could lead to admitting students who may not be adequately prepared for the rigors of university study, ultimately harming both the student and the institution. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a systematic evaluation of the application against established criteria. When discrepancies or appeals arise, the professional should 1. Clearly identify the specific policy or requirement that is in question. 2. Objectively assess the provided information, seeking clarification or additional documentation if necessary and permitted by policy. 3. Consider the impact of any extenuating circumstances on the applicant's ability to meet the requirements. 4. Make a decision based on a consistent and fair application of the university's regulations and ethical standards, documenting the rationale thoroughly. Question 9. Implementation of a strategy to gain an unfair advantage in the Bello Catholic University entrance exam by accepting assistance from an external party who offers to provide answers during the examination period. Option A. Ignore the offer and proceed with the exam without acknowledging it. Option B. Accept the offer of assistance and use the provided answers to complete the exam. Option C. Accept the offer of assistance, but only use it for a few questions to avoid suspicion. Option D. Reject the offer of assistance and report the incident to the exam proctors. The correct answer is D. Reject the offer of assistance and report the incident to the exam proctors. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the ethical obligation to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a university entrance exam, especially one as significant as the Bello Catholic University entrance exam, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts. The core of the dilemma lies in balancing the pursuit of a desired outcome with adherence to established ethical principles and the specific regulations governing the exam. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation without compromising personal integrity or the fairness of the examination process. The correct approach involves a steadfast commitment to academic honesty and a refusal to engage in any form of academic misconduct. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of integrity, fairness, and respect for the rules. Specifically, for the Bello Catholic University entrance exam, this means adhering strictly to the stated guidelines regarding permitted materials, collaboration, and the originality of work. The university's regulatory framework, as implied by the nature of an entrance exam, would undoubtedly prohibit any form of cheating or unauthorized assistance. Upholding this principle ensures that the evaluation is a true reflection of the candidate's knowledge and abilities, maintaining the credibility of the institution and the fairness of the selection process. An incorrect approach would be to accept the offer of unauthorized assistance. This action represents a direct violation of academic integrity and the specific regulations of the Bello Catholic University entrance exam. It demonstrates a lack of personal integrity and a willingness to gain an unfair advantage over other candidates. Such behavior undermines the principles of meritocracy and can lead to severe consequences, including disqualification from the exam and potential blacklisting from future academic pursuits. Another incorrect approach would be to remain silent and not report the offer of assistance. While not actively participating in cheating, this inaction can be interpreted as tacit approval or a failure to uphold the ethical standards expected of exam candidates. It allows potential misconduct to go unchecked, thereby compromising the integrity of the examination process for all participants. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of ethical obligations and the specific rules governing the context. When faced with an offer of unauthorized assistance or any situation that compromises academic integrity, the first step is to recognize the ethical implications. This is followed by a firm rejection of the unethical offer. Subsequently, it is often professionally responsible to report the incident to the appropriate authorities, in this case, the exam administrators or the university's admissions office, to ensure the integrity of the process is maintained. This proactive stance demonstrates a commitment to ethical conduct and contributes to a fair and trustworthy academic environment. Question 10. The efficiency study reveals that a newly implemented pedagogical approach at Bello Catholic University, while showing some minor improvements in student engagement in specific areas, has overall led to a statistically significant decrease in learning outcomes compared to the previous methodology. The research team is aware that presenting these negative findings could lead to criticism of the department and potentially impact future funding for innovative teaching methods. What is the most ethically responsible course of action for the research team? Option A. Focus the report on the minor improvements in student engagement, downplaying or omitting the data regarding the decrease in learning outcomes, and suggesting further research to confirm the negative aspects. Option B. Reanalyze the data with a different statistical model that might obscure the negative findings, or selectively interpret the results to emphasize any perceived positive trends, even if they are not statistically robust. Option C. Present the full, unedited findings of the study, including the decrease in learning outcomes, to the relevant academic and administrative committees, along with a detailed analysis of potential contributing factors and recommendations for improvement. Option D. Hold back the full report until further data can be collected, hoping that subsequent findings might present a more favorable overall picture, and in the interim, highlight only the positive engagement metrics. Correct answer is C. Present the full, unedited findings of the study, including the decrease in learning outcomes, to the relevant academic and administrative committees, along with a detailed analysis of potential contributing factors and recommendations for improvement. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the desire to present positive results and the ethical obligation to report findings accurately, even if they are unfavorable. The pressure to demonstrate the success of a new pedagogical approach, coupled with the potential for reputational impact on the university and the individuals involved, creates a complex ethical landscape. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation without compromising academic integrity or professional standards. The correct approach involves transparently reporting the full findings of the efficiency study, including the negative aspects, to the relevant academic and administrative bodies. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty, integrity, and accountability that are fundamental to academic research and university operations. Specifically, within the framework of academic ethics and university governance, there is a strong expectation that research findings, regardless of their outcome, should be communicated truthfully. This ensures that decisions regarding pedagogical strategies are based on accurate data, allowing for informed adjustments and improvements rather than perpetuating ineffective methods. Transparency also upholds the trust placed in researchers and the institution by students, faculty, and the wider academic community. An incorrect approach would be to selectively present only the positive aspects of the study, omitting the data that indicates the new pedagogical approach is less efficient. This constitutes a misrepresentation of findings and a breach of academic integrity. Ethically, it is dishonest and undermines the purpose of research, which is to discover and disseminate knowledge. From a regulatory perspective within a university context, such selective reporting could violate internal policies on research conduct and data integrity, potentially leading to disciplinary action. Another incorrect approach would be to delay or suppress the report altogether, hoping that the issues will resolve themselves or that the study will be forgotten. This is a failure of professional responsibility and ethical conduct. It demonstrates a lack of courage to face unfavorable results and a disregard for the importance of timely and accurate information for decision-making. This inaction can lead to continued investment in an ineffective strategy, wasting resources and hindering genuine progress. A third incorrect approach would be to subtly manipulate the data or the interpretation of the results to make the negative findings appear less significant. This is a form of academic dishonesty and a violation of ethical research practices. It misleads stakeholders and prevents the university from addressing the root causes of inefficiency. Such actions erode trust and can have serious consequences if discovered. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to the core ethical principles of honesty, objectivity, and responsibility. When faced with challenging research outcomes, professionals should first ensure they fully understand the data and its implications. They should then consult relevant university policies and ethical guidelines. Open and honest communication with supervisors or relevant committees is crucial. The focus should always be on the pursuit of truth and the betterment of the institution through accurate information, rather than on personal or institutional expediency. Question 11. During the evaluation of an applicant's file for the Bello Catholic University, the admissions committee discovers a past instance of academic dishonesty from their secondary education. The applicant has since completed a remedial ethics course and has provided strong evidence of improved academic performance in subsequent years, including excellent grades in challenging subjects. The committee must decide whether to proceed with the application. Option: offer conditional admission contingent upon the applicant completing an additional, extensive ethics program, even though they have already completed a remedial course and shown significant improvement. Option B: admit the applicant without further scrutiny, assuming the past infraction is irrelevant given the time elapsed and subsequent good grades. Option C: conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire academic record and personal statement, considering the context of the past infraction, the evidence of remediation, and the applicant's current demonstrated potential for academic success. Option D: immediately reject the application due to the past instance of academic dishonesty, regardless of subsequent improvements or contextual factors. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire academic record and personal statement, considering the context of the past infraction, the evidence of remediation, and the applicant's current demonstrated potential for academic success. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the personal circumstances of a student. The admissions committee must make a decision that upholds the rigorous standards of the Andres Bello Catholic University, while also demonstrating fairness and understanding. The core of the dilemma lies in determining whether a past academic infraction, even if rectified, should permanently disqualify a candidate who has otherwise shown significant improvement and potential. Careful judgment is required to assess the student's current capabilities and character against the established criteria for admission. The correct approach involves a thorough, holistic review of the student's application, considering the context of the past infraction, the evidence of remediation, and the student's current academic performance and personal growth. This approach aligns with the ethical principles of fairness and due process, ensuring that decisions are not solely based on a single past event, but on a comprehensive assessment of the applicant's overall suitability. It also reflects a commitment to the university's mission of fostering intellectual development, recognizing that individuals can learn from mistakes and demonstrate significant progress. The university's regulatory framework, while emphasizing academic excellence, also implicitly supports a nuanced evaluation that considers individual circumstances and potential for future contribution. An incorrect approach would be to automatically reject the application based solely on the past academic dishonesty, without considering the student's subsequent efforts to rectify the situation and their current academic standing. This fails to acknowledge the principle of redemption and can be seen as overly punitive, potentially barring a deserving candidate from an opportunity for higher education. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the past infraction entirely and admit the student without a thorough investigation into the circumstances and the student's demonstrated commitment to academic integrity. This would undermine the university's commitment to upholding ethical standards and could set a precedent that devalues academic honesty. A third incorrect approach would be to grant admission, but impose overly burdensome or irrelevant conditions that are not directly related to the past infraction or the student's academic preparedness, which could be seen as discriminatory or unfair. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes a balanced consideration of all relevant factors. This involves gathering complete information, understanding the context of any past issues, evaluating the evidence of remediation and current performance, and applying the university's admission criteria consistently and fairly. The process should be transparent and defensible, ensuring that the final decision is based on sound judgment and adherence to ethical and regulatory guidelines. Question 12. The efficiency study reveals that while student retention rates have slightly improved in some departments, overall graduation rates have stagnated, and a significant portion of the student body is experiencing prolonged time-to-degree completion. The university administration has expressed a strong desire for positive results to be highlighted in the upcoming annual report to secure continued funding. How should the findings be presented? Option A. Recommend halting further efficiency studies until more consistently positive outcomes can be achieved. Option B. Emphasize the slight improvements in retention rates and downplay the stagnation in graduation rates and extended completion times, framing them as minor challenges. Option C. Omit the data on graduation rates and time-to-degree completion from the report to avoid negative attention and focus solely on the positive retention figures. Option D. Present a balanced report detailing all findings, including areas of stagnation and prolonged completion times, and propose data-driven strategies for improvement. The correct answer is D. Present a balanced report detailing all findings, including areas of stagnation and prolonged completion times, and propose data-driven strategies for improvement. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it pits the pursuit of institutional improvement against the potential for misrepresenting data to achieve desired outcomes. The ethical dilemma lies in balancing the responsibility to report findings accurately with the pressure to demonstrate success. Careful judgment is required to navigate the temptation to manipulate results and uphold professional integrity. The correct approach involves transparently reporting the study's findings, including any limitations or areas where targets were not met, and then proposing actionable strategies for improvement based on the actual data. This upholds the ethical principle of honesty and integrity in professional reporting. It aligns with the academic and professional standards expected of individuals within an educational institution, where the pursuit of truth and accurate assessment are paramount. By presenting the unvarnished truth, the professional demonstrates accountability and builds trust with stakeholders. An incorrect approach would be to selectively present data or to inflate positive results while downplaying negative ones to create a more favorable impression. This constitutes a failure of honesty and integrity, potentially misleading decision-makers and undermining the credibility of future studies. Such an action violates the ethical obligation to provide accurate and unbiased information, which is fundamental to professional conduct in any field, especially within an academic setting. Another incorrect approach would be to abandon the study altogether upon encountering unfavorable results, demonstrating a lack of commitment to problem solving and an unwillingness to confront challenges honestly. This shirks professional responsibility and fails to contribute to the institution's growth. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations. This involves 1. Identifying the core ethical principles at stake: honesty, integrity, accountability. 2. Gathering all relevant facts and understanding the implications of different actions. 3. Considering the potential consequences of each course of action on stakeholders and the institution. 4. Consulting with trusted colleagues or supervisors if uncertainty exists. 5. Choosing the action that best aligns with ethical principles and professional standards, even if it is the more difficult path. Question 13. Performance analysis shows a significant decline in student retention rates for a specific program at Andres Bello Catholic University over the past 2 academic years. The university's leadership is concerned about the potential impact on the program's reputation and future enrollment. The dean of the faculty overseeing this program has asked for a report on the findings. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible approach for the dean to take in responding to this performance analysis? Option A. Present the raw data on retention rates without any interpretation or proposed solutions, leaving it to others to draw conclusions and develop strategies. Option B. Acknowledge the declining retention rates in the report, provide a detailed analysis of potential contributing factors, and propose a comprehensive action plan with specific strategies to improve student retention. Option C. Prepare a report that focuses exclusively on the program's strengths and positive achievements, omitting any mention of the declining retention rates to avoid alarming stakeholders. Option D. Immediately dismiss the performance analysis as potentially inaccurate due to sampling errors or data collection issues, without conducting a thorough investigation into the validity of the findings. Correct answer is C. Prepare a report that focuses exclusively on the program's strengths and positive achievements, omitting any mention of the declining retention rates to avoid alarming stakeholders. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the desire to present a positive image of the university and the ethical obligation to accurately report performance data. The pressure to meet or exceed expectations, especially in a competitive academic environment, can lead to temptations to manipulate or selectively present information. Careful judgment is required to navigate this tension and uphold professional integrity. The correct approach involves transparently communicating the performance analysis, including any areas that require improvement, and outlining concrete strategies for addressing these challenges. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty, integrity, and accountability expected of professionals within an academic institution. Specifically, it reflects a commitment to data-driven decision-making and continuous improvement, which are foundational to maintaining trust with stakeholders, including students, faculty, and governing bodies. The regulatory framework for academic institutions, while not explicitly detailed here as a specific Venezuelan law, generally emphasizes transparency and responsible stewardship of resources and reputation. An incorrect approach that involves selectively highlighting only positive metrics while omitting or downplaying negative ones fails to meet the standard of professional honesty. This misrepresents the true state of affairs and can lead to misguided strategies and a false sense of security. Ethically, it violates the principle of truthfulness and can erode trust. Another incorrect approach, which is to present the data without any context or propose solutions, is also professionally deficient. While it may be factually accurate, it fails to demonstrate proactive leadership or a commitment to addressing challenges. This passive approach can be perceived as a lack of initiative and responsibility, potentially leading to stagnation. A third incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the performance analysis as flawed without a thorough and objective review, is problematic. It demonstrates an unwillingness to confront potentially uncomfortable truths and can be seen as an attempt to avoid accountability. This can undermine the credibility of any future analysis and create a culture of denial. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to objective data analysis, open communication, and a proactive approach to problem solving. Professionals should first ensure the accuracy and integrity of the data. Then, they should communicate the findings transparently, providing context and acknowledging both successes and areas for improvement. Finally, they should develop and communicate actionable plans to address any identified shortcomings, demonstrating a commitment to continuous improvement and ethical conduct. Question 14. Strategic planning requires a commitment to upholding the integrity of academic admissions. Imagine you are a member of the admissions committee at Bello Catholic University. You are reviewing applications for a highly competitive program. During this review, you discover that one of the applicants is a close family friend whose academic record is strong but not exceptionally outstanding compared to other candidates. You have a warm personal relationship with this applicant's family and have known the applicant since childhood. How should you proceed to ensure the fairness and ethical conduct of the admissions process? Option A. Proceed with the evaluation without disclosing the personal relationship, assuming it will not influence your professional judgment. Option B. Evaluate the applicant as usual, disclosing the personal relationship to the committee, but believing your objectivity is sufficient to make a fair judgment. Option C. Advocate for the applicant's admission to the committee, highlighting your personal knowledge of their character and potential, in addition to their academic record. Option D. Recuse yourself from the evaluation and decision-making process for this specific applicant, informing the committee chair of the personal relationship. Correct answer is D. Recuse yourself from the evaluation and decision-making process for this specific applicant, informing the committee chair of the personal relationship. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation of transparency and the potential for conflicts of interest within an academic admissions process. The admissions committee member faces a dilemma where personal relationships could influence objective evaluation, jeopardizing the integrity of the university selection process. Careful judgment is required to uphold fairness and meritocracy. The correct approach involves recusing oneself from the evaluation of the applicant with whom there is a personal connection. This upholds the principle of impartiality, a cornerstone of ethical admissions practices. By stepping aside, the committee member ensures that the applicant is assessed solely on their academic merits and qualifications, free from any perceived or actual bias. This aligns with the ethical guidelines of academic institutions that mandate avoiding conflicts of interest and maintaining confidentiality and fairness in all decision-making processes. The Bello Catholic University's commitment to academic excellence and integrity necessitates such a proactive measure to safeguard the admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with evaluating the applicant while disclosing the relationship, but believing personal integrity is sufficient to overcome bias. This fails to acknowledge the inherent risk of unconscious bias and the perception of unfairness it creates, even if no actual bias is intended. It undermines the trust placed in the admissions committee by applicants and the institution. Another incorrect approach is to advocate for the applicant's admission based on the personal relationship, without a thorough and objective assessment of their qualifications against the established criteria. This constitutes a clear breach of ethical conduct, prioritizing personal connections over merit and potentially admitting less qualified candidates, thereby diminishing the academic standards of the university. A further incorrect approach would be to ignore the personal relationship and evaluate the applicant as if no connection existed, without any disclosure. This is ethically unsound as it involves a deliberate omission of relevant information that could influence the perception of fairness and objectivity. It violates the duty of candor and transparency expected of committee members. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations and institutional integrity. This involves identifying potential conflicts of interest, assessing their impact on objectivity, and taking decisive action to mitigate them. When faced with a personal relationship that could influence an evaluation, the most responsible course of action is to recuse oneself from the decision-making process to ensure fairness and maintain the credibility of the institution. Question 15. Stakeholder feedback indicates a significant philanthropic offer from a prominent businessperson whose public image has recently been tarnished by allegations of unethical labor practices in their overseas operations. The university's budget is currently facing significant shortfalls. What is the most ethically responsible course of action for the university administration? Option A. Conduct a thorough, independent investigation into the allegations and the source of the funds before making a decision, consulting university ethical guidelines and potentially legal counsel. Option B. Politely decline the donation outright due to the negative publicity surrounding the donor, without conducting any further investigation. Option C. Immediately accept the substantial donation to alleviate the immediate budgetary pressures, assuming the allegations are unproven or irrelevant to the university's mission. Option D. Accept the donation, but implement strict internal controls to ensure the funds are used solely for academic purposes, without publicly acknowledging the donor or the source of the funds. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough, independent investigation into the allegations and the source of the funds before making a decision, consulting university ethical guidelines and potentially legal counsel. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term ethical implications of accepting a donation with potentially problematic origins. The university administration must exercise careful judgment to uphold its reputation, academic integrity, and ethical standards while navigating donor relations. The correct approach involves a thorough, independent investigation into the source of the funds and the donor's reputation. This aligns with the ethical principles of due diligence and transparency expected of academic institutions. Specifically, it adheres to the spirit of academic integrity by ensuring that the university does not become complicit in or appear to endorse unethical practices. By seeking independent verification and consulting relevant ethical guidelines, which, for the Bello Catholic University, would implicitly draw from principles of academic probity and institutional responsibility, often codified in internal university statutes and broader ethical frameworks governing nonprofit organizations in Venezuela. The university demonstrates a commitment to responsible stewardship of its resources and its public image. This proactive stance prevents potential reputational damage and maintains trust with students, faculty, alumni, and the wider community. An incorrect approach would be to immediately accept the donation without further scrutiny. This fails to uphold the ethical duty of care and due diligence. It risks associating the university with potentially illicit or unethical activities, thereby compromising its academic mission and reputation. Such an action could be seen as prioritizing financial gain over ethical considerations, a direct violation of the principles of institutional integrity. Another incorrect approach would be to reject the donation solely based on the donor's controversial public profile without a factual basis for the allegations. A caution is warranted. A definitive rejection without investigation could lead to legal challenges or accusations of prejudice. It bypasses the necessary process of gathering objective information to make an informed decision. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to accept the donation, but attempt to conceal its origin or the controversy surrounding it. This constitutes a breach of transparency and ethical conduct. It creates a risk of future exposure, which would severely damage the university's credibility and trust. Such a clandestine action undermines the fundamental values of openness and accountability that are crucial for any educational institution. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Information gathering. Collect all available information about the potential donor and the source of funds. 2. Risk assessment. Evaluate the potential ethical, reputational, and legal risks associated with accepting the donation. 3. Consultation. Seek advice from relevant internal committees, e.g., ethics board, legal counsel, and potentially external experts if necessary. 4. Due diligence. Conduct independent verification of the information gathered. 5. Decision-making. Make a decision based on the gathered information, risk assessment, and ethical principles, ensuring transparency in the process. 6. Communication. Clearly communicate the decision and the rationale behind it to relevant stakeholders. Question 16. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of a student requesting a grade adjustment based on perceived unfairness after receiving their exam results. As a professor at Bello Catholic University, you receive an email from a student who states they didn't feel they performed their best on a recent exam and believes their grade doesn't reflect their true understanding, asking if there's any way to improve it. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach? Option A. Inform the student that grade adjustments are only possible if there was a clear clerical error in the grading, and since they are not alleging such an error, their grade stands as is, without offering further discussion. Option B. Advise the student to speak with other students to see if they also felt the exam was unfairly difficult and to collectively petition for a grade adjustment. Option C. Agree to regrade the exam with a slightly more lenient interpretation of the answers to boost their score, as the student seems genuinely concerned. Option D. Explain that while you understand their concern, grades are final and based on the assessment as administered, but offer to discuss specific areas of the exam where they struggled and suggest resources for future improvement. The correct answer is D. Explain that while you understand their concern, grades are final and based on the assessment as administered, but offer to discuss specific areas of the exam where they struggled and suggest resources for future improvement. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's academic aspirations and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair evaluation. Students' request, while stemming from a desire to improve their grade, borders on seeking an unfair advantage, potentially undermining the credibility of the assessment process. The professor must navigate this situation with a strong adherence to ethical principles and university regulations concerning academic honesty and grading policies. The correct approach involves upholding the established academic policies and offering constructive, ethical guidance. This means clearly communicating that direct intervention to alter a grade based on a perceived unfairness, without concrete evidence of error or misconduct, is not permissible. Instead, the professor should guide the student towards legitimate avenues for academic improvement, such as reviewing the grading rubric, discussing specific areas of weakness with the professor, or utilizing university academic support services. This approach aligns with the ethical duty of fairness and the regulatory framework of the Bello Catholic University, which emphasizes academic integrity and transparent evaluation. It respects the student's right to understand their performance while safeguarding the integrity of the academic process. An incorrect approach would be to directly accede to the student's request and alter the grade without proper justification or adherence to university policy. This would violate the principle of fairness to other students and compromise the professor's professional integrity. It would also contravene the university's regulations on grading and academic assessment, potentially setting a precedent for similar inappropriate requests. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the student's concerns outright without offering any constructive dialogue or explanation. While maintaining academic standards is crucial, a complete lack of empathy or willingness to discuss the student's perspective can be perceived as unprofessional and may lead to further escalation or dissatisfaction. This fails to uphold the university's commitment to student support and clear communication. A third incorrect approach would be to suggest that the student engage in actions that could be construed as unethical or manipulative to achieve a better grade. This would directly violate the professor's ethical obligations and the university's code of conduct, potentially leading to disciplinary action for both the student and the professor. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Acknowledging the student's concern empathetically. 2. Clearly articulating the university's policies and the professor's responsibilities regarding grading and academic integrity. 3. Offering legitimate avenues for academic support and improvement. 4. Maintaining professional boundaries and upholding ethical standards at all times. Question 17. The assessment process reveals that a candidate for a prestigious scholarship at Bello Catholic University, whom you have known casually through extracurricular activities for several years, has submitted an application. You are part of the selection committee responsible for reviewing these applications and making recommendations. While you have no direct personal friendship, You are aware of their participation in events you also attended, and you feel a sense of familiarity and a desire for them to succeed. What is the most ethically sound approach to your role in the selection committee regarding this candidate's application? Option A. Evaluate the candidate's application strictly based on the established scholarship criteria, ensuring your assessment is objective and free from any personal bias or influence. And if any doubt about impartiality arises, disclose the familiarity to the committee chair. Option B. Avoid reviewing the candidate's application altogether to prevent any perceived or actual conflict of interest, leaving the evaluation to other committee members. Option C. Provide a slightly more favorable assessment than warranted by the application materials, rationalizing that your familiarity suggests they possess qualities not fully captured by the written submission. Option D. Discreetly advocate for the candidate to other committee members, highlighting their positive attributes that you are aware of from your casual acquaintance, even if these are not fully detailed in the application. The correct answer is A. Evaluate the candidate's application strictly based on the established scholarship criteria, ensuring your assessment is objective and free from any personal bias or influence. And if any doubt about impartiality arises, disclose the familiarity to the committee chair. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common ethical dilemma faced by individuals in academic or professional settings: the conflict between academic integrity and personal relationships. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the duty to uphold fairness and accuracy in evaluations with the desire to support a friend or acquaintance. The pressure to compromise ethical standards for personal reasons necessitates careful judgment and a strong adherence to established principles. The correct approach involves prioritizing objectivity and fairness in the evaluation process, even when it might lead to an unfavorable outcome for someone known to the assessor. This aligns with the core ethical principles of academic and professional integrity, which demand impartiality and a commitment to merit-based assessment. Specifically, adhering to the established evaluation criteria and providing an honest assessment, regardless of personal connection, upholds the principles of fairness and transparency expected in any evaluative process. This ensures that the assessment accurately reflects the candidate's qualifications and potential, maintaining the credibility of the institution and the assessment itself. An incorrect approach would be to unduly influence the assessment in favor of the acquaintance. This compromises the integrity of the evaluation process by introducing bias. Such an action violates the ethical obligation to be impartial and could lead to an unfair advantage for the acquaintance, potentially disadvantaging more qualified candidates. Furthermore, it undermines the trust placed in the assessor and the institution. Another incorrect approach would be to avoid the assessment altogether due to the personal connection. While seemingly a way to sidestep the conflict, this can also be problematic. It may indicate a lack of commitment to fulfilling one's responsibilities or an inability to manage professional duties ethically. Depending on the specific regulations of the Andres Bello Catholic University, such an avoidance might be interpreted as a dereliction of duty, especially if no proper delegation or disclosure mechanism is followed. A third incorrect approach would be to provide a misleadingly positive assessment without genuine justification. This is a direct breach of honesty and integrity. It misrepresents the acquaintance's abilities, potentially setting them up for failure in future endeavors and damaging the reputation of the institution. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the ethical guidelines and institutional policies governing evaluations. When a potential conflict of interest arises, the professional should first identify the nature of the conflict. Then, they should consult relevant ethical codes and institutional policies to determine the appropriate course of action. If direct involvement is unavoidable and impartiality can be maintained, the professional should proceed with utmost objectivity. If impartiality cannot be guaranteed, the professional should consider recusing themselves from the assessment and informing the relevant authorities, ensuring that the process remains fair and transparent. Question 18. The performance metrics show a consistent upward trend in the acceptance rate for a particular program, coinciding with a slight decrease in the average scores of admitted students. The admissions committee is under pressure to maintain this positive trend to secure continued funding. One committee member suggests focusing on holistic review to justify the increased acceptance rate, even if it means downplaying the academic scores of some admitted students. What is the most ethically responsible approach for the admissions committee? Option A. Propose a revision of the performance metrics to include less quantifiable achievements, thereby creating a more favorable overall picture that aligns with the upward trend in acceptance rates. Option B. Emphasize the holistic review narrative to justify the increased acceptance rate and the slightly lower average scores, focusing on qualitative aspects of applicants to mask the academic decline. Option C. Advocate for a temporary suspension of rigorous academic score evaluation for this program, arguing that the focus should be on broader potential and institutional growth. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of the admission criteria and the holistic review process to ensure they are being applied objectively and fairly, and if discrepancies are found, address them transparently while continuing to uphold academic standards. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough review of the admission criteria and the holistic review process to ensure they are being applied objectively and fairly, and if discrepancies are found, address them transparently while continuing to uphold academic standards. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the pursuit of academic excellence and institutional reputation with the ethical obligation to ensure fair and transparent evaluation processes. The pressure to achieve high performance metrics can create an environment where shortcuts or biased judgments might be considered, potentially compromising the integrity of the admissions process. Careful judgment is required to uphold ethical standards while still striving for institutional success. The correct approach involves a commitment to objective evaluation and a proactive stance against any form of academic dishonesty or unfair advantage. This means rigorously applying established admission criteria, ensuring all applicants are assessed based on merit and suitability, and maintaining a transparent process. Ethically, this aligns with principles of fairness, integrity, and equal opportunity, which are fundamental to any reputable educational institution. Specifically, within the framework of university admissions, this approach upholds the trust placed in the institution by applicants, their families, and society at large. It prevents the erosion of academic standards and ensures that those admitted are genuinely qualified, contributing positively to the university's academic community. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking potential irregularities in the performance metrics to maintain a positive institutional image would be ethically unsound. This would violate the principle of integrity by prioritizing superficial success over genuine merit and fairness. It could lead to the admission of less qualified candidates, thereby undermining the academic rigor of the university and potentially creating a precedent for future misconduct. Another incorrect approach, such as selectively highlighting positive metrics while downplaying or ignoring negative ones to present an overly optimistic picture, constitutes a form of misrepresentation. This is ethically problematic as it deceives stakeholders about the true state of affairs and can lead to misguided decisions based on incomplete or manipulated information. It erodes trust and demonstrates a lack of accountability. A further incorrect approach, such as implementing a system that implicitly favors certain applicant profiles based on perceived potential, without clear, objective criteria, introduces bias. This violates the principle of equal opportunity and fairness, as it can disadvantage equally or more qualified applicants who do not fit a predetermined mold. It also risks perpetuating systemic inequalities and compromising the diversity and inclusivity of the student body. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a commitment to ethical principles, a thorough understanding of university policies and admission guidelines, and a willingness to question and investigate any anomalies. Professionals should prioritize transparency, fairness, and objectivity in all evaluations. When faced with ambiguous or potentially problematic data, the responsible course of action is to seek clarification, consult with relevant authorities or committees, and ensure that decisions are based on established, ethical, and transparent criteria, rather than on pressures to achieve specific outcomes. Question 19. Investigation of a student's ethical dilemma during a crucial Bello Catholic University entrance examination, where a seemingly helpful acquaintance offers access to pre-exam materials that could significantly improve their score, raising questions about academic integrity and fairness. Option A. Ignore the offer and proceed with the examination as planned, hoping that the acquaintance will not report the offer and that the student's own efforts will be sufficient. Option B. Confront the acquaintance and refuse the offer, but do not report the incident to any university authority, assuming the matter is resolved by the refusal. Option C. Discreetly accept the offered materials and use them during the examination, believing that the opportunity to succeed should not be missed. Option D. Immediately report the offer and the acquaintance's actions to the examination proctor or the relevant university authority, seeking guidance on how to proceed while ensuring the integrity of the examination. The correct answer is D. Immediately report the offer and the acquaintance's actions to the examination proctor or the relevant university authority, seeking guidance on how to proceed while ensuring the integrity of the examination. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's academic integrity and the potential for personal gain or pressure from external sources. The ethical dilemma lies in navigating the university's academic honesty policies, while also considering the implications of accepting assistance that could be construed as unethical or a violation of examination rules. Careful judgment is required to uphold the principles of fairness and meritocracy that are fundamental to any educational institution, including Bello Catholic University. The correct approach involves a direct and honest communication with the professor or the designated examination authority. This approach prioritizes transparency and adherence to the established academic regulations of Bello Catholic University. By proactively disclosing the situation and seeking guidance, the student demonstrates a commitment to ethical conduct and respects the integrity of the examination process. This aligns with the university's likely emphasis on academic honesty, which is a cornerstone of its educational mission and is typically enforced through internal regulations and codes of conduct. An incorrect approach would be to accept the offer of assistance without disclosure. This action would constitute academic dishonesty, violating the principles of fair assessment and potentially leading to severe disciplinary actions as outlined in the university's academic regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the offer and proceed with the exam without addressing the potential ethical breach. This passive stance fails to uphold the student's responsibility to maintain academic integrity and could still be viewed as complicity if the offer was made in a way that suggests an expectation of acceptance. Finally, attempting to subtly use the offered information during the exam, even if not explicitly stated, would also be a violation of academic honesty and the spirit of fair examination. Professionals facing similar situations should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the ethical conflict. This is followed by a thorough understanding of relevant institutional policies and codes of conduct. Seeking clarification from appropriate authorities, such as supervisors or ethics committees, is crucial. Documenting the situation and the decision-making process is also a good practice. Ultimately, the decision should prioritize integrity, fairness, and adherence to established rules and ethical principles. Question 20. Process analysis reveals that during the preparation for the Bello Catholic University entrance exam, a candidate discovers a confidential online forum where past exam questions are allegedly being shared. The candidate is under immense pressure from their family to gain admission. Which of the following represents the most ethically responsible course of action for the candidate? Option A. Immediately report the existence of the forum to the Bello Catholic University's admissions office without engaging with its content and continue to prepare using legitimate study materials. Option B. Discreetly join the forum to assess the authenticity of the shared questions and consider using them if they appear to be genuine and relevant. Option C. Attempt to purchase the shared questions from the forum administrators to ensure they have the most accurate information available. Option D. Ignore the forum and focus solely on personal study, assuming that any shared questions are likely to be inaccurate or outdated. The correct answer is A. Immediately report the existence of the forum to the Bello Catholic University's admissions office without engaging with its content, and continue to prepare using legitimate study materials. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the ethical obligation of academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a university entrance exam, especially one as significant as the Bello Catholic University entrance exam, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts. The challenge lies in navigating this pressure while upholding the principles of honesty and fairness that are fundamental to any educational institution. Careful judgment is required to discern between legitimate academic effort and unethical behavior. The correct approach involves a commitment to personal effort and adherence to the exam's established rules and guidelines. This means relying solely on one's own knowledge and understanding, without resorting to any form of external assistance or illicit means. This approach is ethically sound because it respects the principles of fairness and equal opportunity for all candidates. It aligns with the implicit contract between the student and the institution, where the assessment is meant to reflect the student's genuine capabilities. Furthermore, it upholds the integrity of the Bello Catholic University's admission process, ensuring that admitted students possess the foundational knowledge and skills required for academic success. An incorrect approach of seeking or accepting unauthorized assistance, such as obtaining exam questions in advance or using prohibited materials during the exam, constitutes a direct violation of academic integrity policies. This is ethically unacceptable as it undermines the fairness of the competition and disadvantages other candidates who are preparing honestly. Such actions also erode the credibility of the examination and the institution. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to bribe an invigilator or administrator, is not only unethical but also illegal, representing a severe breach of trust and potentially leading to criminal charges. This approach corrupts the entire admission process and demonstrates a profound lack of respect for the institution and its values. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations. This involves clearly understanding the rules and expectations of the situation, identifying potential ethical conflicts, evaluating the consequences of different actions, and choosing the path that aligns with established ethical principles and regulations. In an academic context, this means a steadfast commitment to honesty, diligence, and respect for the integrity of the assessment process.